topic of our discussion is about the regulatory framework around the millets, since millets are something that has been promoted very extensively by our government, especially this year was, or the last year was marked as the year of millets. FSSAI has also came up with a lot of regulations, orders, advisories about millets. A lot of millets were added to our regulations. A lot of characteristics, or I should say the parameters that are there for millets have been changed and have been updated. In the next quick 20 to 25 minutes, we are going to discuss those introductions by FSSAI. And apart from that, we have also covered a little bit about the licensing and labeling part for these millets. Before we start with that, a little bit about ourselves. So we are a team of wonderful people who come from different backgrounds: food technologists, microbiologists, biotechnologists, nutritionists, and we all come together to make sure that we deliver the whatever our clients require. We help them in implementing the food safety management systems. We also help them in maintaining their regulatory aspect, or make sure that they are in compliance with the regulatory requirements of our country or the country of export, where they are planning to export their products. We have till date we have set up more than 40 factories and catering units. We have trained more than 2,000 people and have conducted more than 3,000 audits. We are also partners with FSSAI for their post-tag program, and we do conduct regular post-tag trainings. All right, moving over to our topic of the discussion today. We are talking about millets and the regulatory aspects about millets especially, and they have been regulated in our country majorly by the FSSAI. And FSSAI basically have listed down 15 or more millets. The major ones that are listed in our regulation is amaranthus, barnyard, brown top, buckwheat, crabfinger, finger millet, fonio, foxtail, Jobsteer's millet, kodo millet, little millet, pearl millet, poso, sorghum, and teff. Apart from these, there are some pseudo millets also that have been regulated by FSSAI, and most of them that goes into any food product, if they are not used as it is, or if they are, I should say, if they are being used as an ingredient in some of the product, some of the products that go as proprietary products for our license application. So for them, we have to specify which millet exactly we are using. Before we go on to that part of our discussion, here is what are the minimum specifications that have been given by FSSAI for millets. Of course, it's a food item. It has to be non-poisonous, non-toxic, non-noxious, or doesn't have any extraneous seeds which are harmful to us, no artificial or added coloring matter, and no excreta, rodent hair, as the basic hygiene requirement for any of our food product. General requirements are here. So the moisture content should not be more than 13% in whole grains as well as in dehulled grains. The extraneous matter should not be more than 1%. Other edible grains also should not be more than 2%. And grains with serious defect, for example, the grains which are damaged by pests or moles, they shouldn't be more than 1% of the entire lot that you have. And which have slight defect should not be more than 7%. The weevilled grains, the grains that are infested by weevils, should not be more than 4% of your total, the quantity that you have. And immature and shriveled grain should not be more than 5%. And uric acid should not be more than 100 ppm in your, the millet that you are using for your product. This is the basic requirement. You can make your own, some companies do that, making the requirements which are little stringent or more stringent as given in these tables, so that they always, make sure that they are complying with these minimum requirements that a millet should follow. Apart from the list of millets, there are a couple of flours that have been standardized by FSSAI in their regulation. First is bajra flour or pearl millet flour, and it has to be obtained from pearl millet grains from these specific plants. It's a food product. It has to be free from any filth or living insects or any kind of impurities that might affect us that might affect our health. Here in the table that is there on our screen, the limits or the parameters for bajra flour are given. The moisture should not be more than 13%. Ash insoluble ash percent on dry basis should not be more than 0.15%. And I think I just leave it here for a few seconds for you all to read. These, very recently, these have been updated by FSSAI. By recently, I mean last year. So it came somewhere around January, but it got operationalized somewhere around July or September last year. These parameters that we are looking at our screen right now. Next is sorghum flour or jowar flour. It has to come from this particular plant. And again, it has to be free from any kind of impurities that might affect us, affect our health. And here are the parameters that have been specified. One important thing, this particle size that is mentioned over here in this table, this is for your final product. So there are a few clients of ours also, and of course, it's specified in the regulations as well. So some of them use the, different particle size for different products. So if you're using the, jowar as your intermediary product or the product that is going to be used in some other product as an ingredient, this particle size is not for that. This is only if you're selling your product as jowar flour and calling it jowar flour on your label. Okay, and the third type of flour, which has been defined or standardized by FSSAI, is mixed millet flour. It can, you can use millets or pseudo millets to make this flour. You can blend them in the ratio that you want, but you have to be specific on your labels. If you are blending something, then you have to specify, which millets you have used and what a percentage of those millets that you have used. That has to be there. But otherwise, mixed millet flours or pseudo millet flours are allowed. And here is the updated parameter for moisture. Initially, it was 11, but last year, July or September, they have changed it to not more than 13%. The rest of it remains same. All right. Now, whenever you start any business, the first and foremost requirement is having your FSSAI license. So if we want to start with our business with millets, of course, the first requirement is to have a license with millets as one of the product, or if we are using millet as one of the ingredient in our product, then that specific product has to be mentioned in our license. Doesn't matter if we are a manufacturer, relabeler, or a repacker, we have to have that particular product listed in our license before we even start manufacturing and marketing it. So now FSSAI licenses are divided into three types of categories. One is registration, which is for petty food business operators. We'll see what is the definition of petty food business operators in our next slide. But one is registration. Next is a state license, and third is a central license. Even for millets, depending on your production quantity, depending on the type of product, depending on the what all other kind of businesses that you are doing, your license may vary from one kind of license to another kind of license. Now, petty food businesses are majorly the food businesses which have the turnover of less than 12 lakh rupees, or they have the production quantity of less than 100 kg or 100 liter per day. If they are into milk, but we are not talking about milk today, but just for our information, the quantity has to be less than 5L, and same thing for the slaughtering. Basically, a petty food business operator is someone who has a really small scale business. Majorly, most of us, I believe, we fall under the state or central license category. So for state license, your turnover has to be between 12 lakh rupees or 20 crore, or 12 lakh to 20 crore rupees. And all your grain, cereal, pulses, milling units, irrespective of your turnover, comes under state license. So if you have a milling unit, which, and you are, milling any type of grain, cereal, or pulses, you will by default have a state license. Again, these are the categories for a central license, but for us, most important thing to understand over here is either our turnover is more than 20 crore, we have to go for a central license, or if we are using millet and preparing any proprietary food, then we come under a central license category by default. Proprietary food is a food that has not been standardized by FSSAI yet, but you are making the product using the ingredients that have been standardized. For example, millets are standardized. You are making, something, let's say, a pizza base. I'm just giving you a hypothetical example. You are making a pizza base for which definition might not be available in our regulations. In that case, that pizza base is considered as your proprietary product, and you have to, apply for the license for making that proprietary product under central license category. Now, there are different KOBs or kind of businesses that we have to choose while we apply for a license. Manufacturing, storage, transport, trade, catering, retail, and e-commerce. For us, the most relevant one over here can be transport, storage, or manufacturing. Manufacturing being the highlighted one, since most of the people are interested in making products with millets these days. When you select any of these KOBs, especially when you select manufacturing KOB, the next step that comes while you are applying for a license is selecting the exact category number for your product. For example, millets come under the broadest category for millet, or the parent category, I should say, for millet is category number 6. Category 6 is cereal and cereal products derived from cereal grains, from roots and tubers, pulses, legumes, and pith or soft core of palm tree, excluding bakery wares or food category. Your millet also fall under this parent category. Now, there is a subcategory which we have to select when we are making or manufacturing anything. Subcategory will be whole, broken, or flaked grain, including rice. And our subcategory, or I should say the exact category, the third type of, scroll down that we have to select is millet, that is 6.1. 6.1 is nothing but the category of millet as defined in your FOSCOS. FOSCOS is a website where we, apply for our licenses. Similarly, for flours, the subcategory is 6.2. And, for bajra flour, your subcategory or the exact product name will be, 6.2.1. For jowar flour, again, it's same, but you have to remember while applying for the license, you have to select these from a drop-down menu. And for mixed millet flour, again, the subcategory is same, but the names will be different. So you have to be very specific while selecting these on your license. Applying for a license is, of course, the government will charge us fees. So for new application, the fees is 7,500 for a central license. For a state license, it may differ from 2,000 to 5,000 rupees. For registration for petty food business operator, it's just 100 rupees. Renewal is same as your, new license fees. It's 7,500 per central and depending on the state. For modification, your fees is only 1,000 rupees plus GST. One important thing that all the manufacturers have to keep in mind, and it's not just restricted to millet. I've included it over here because I believe some of us can be the manufacturers of these products, is that we all have to submit our annual returns before 31st May. If we fail to do that, then there is a penalty of rupees 100 per day until the day we file our annual return. So we have to be very, very careful, and we have to remember this date or mark this date in our calendars. Also, we have to upload our, lab test report every 6 months on our FoodSafetyWorks portal. So if any of you is a manufacturer of any product, please remember to upload your lab test reports as well as to, file your annual returns in time. Once we get a license, it becomes our whole and sole responsibility as food business operator to follow all the Schedule 4 requirements. Schedule 4 is divided into 5 parts. For us, if you are a petty food business operator, you will find your requirement in part 1. If you are, a food business operator which has a license, then part 2 is where we have to focus on. Now, coming on to another important legislation while you are selling any food products, especially millets in our country. So, all the products that you sell has to comply with the labeling requirements. And because of the time constraint, it's impossible for us to cover all the labeling requirements. But here is the list of some, the general labeling requirement that has to be there on most of the food products. So one thing is the name of the product. Name of the product has to be very specific, very, of course, you can use your brand name or any funky name that you want to use. But along with that, a generic name or the name by which your consumer can understand what is the product has to be there on a label. Again, next thing is the ingredient list. Ingredient list has to be in descending order. And if you are highlighting or emphasizing on any of the ingredient on your label, for example, if you're saying that my, this product contains ragi or, any other millet, then you have to specify the percentage of that millet in your ingredient list. You may emphasize, you may write it, the product contains ragi, or you can just put a picture of ragi or a graphic design of ragi on your label. It will still be considered as, that you are emphasizing on it. You are claiming that your product contains ragi, and that's why you are required to give the percentage in your ingredient list. Next come your nutrition information table. So mandatorily every apart from the raw agricultural commodities and minimally processed food, your every other product is required to have a nutritional information table on it. Per 100, we have to give quantities per 100 gram as well as the quantities that are the per serve percent RDA contribution to those quantities is something that we also have to write. The minimum things that we have to write on in our nutrition information table is energy, protein, carbohydrate, total sugars, added sugars, total fat, saturated fat, trans fat, and sodium. In case you are using any animal source ingredient, for example, if you're using egg or if you are using ghee in your product, then you have to also mention cholesterol. Then comes your veg and non-veg logo. These logos has to be there on the front label near your product or your brand name. The address of the manufacturer as well as the marketer or the importer shall also be there. Of course, the FSSAI license number of the manufacturer, importer, marketer, or whoever it is. The net weight. Customer care information shall have the name of the company or the representative or the designation of the representative along with the address, the phone number, and the email ID. The complete customer care has to be there on the label. MRP and USP. So USP is comparatively newer requirement from legal metrology, but we have to write it on our label. The batch code, date marking. So date marking, both your manufacturing expiry or use by date has to be written on a label, and these two dates has to be written in close proximity to each other. If you are importing a product, then country of origin is also required, otherwise not. And if at all your product contains any allergen, we have 8 allergens identified for us: the crustaceans, the gluten, sulfite, tree nuts, peanuts, eggs, fish, etc. So if your product, or soya also, and yes, if you have any of these in your product, or there is a chance of cross-contamination of these in your product, then we have to declare them on our label as well. Okay, here are some of the penalties for not complying with the regulatory requirements. Thank you so much for being patient.